George Michael.
Was Wham on Light FM? No, because my parents listened to a lot of Light FM.
You know who George Michael is?
Yes, I know.
You know what happened? He didn't have MTV because they were really strict, so he didn't have MTV.
But like, there's the other dude, you know, and no one knows the other dude.
That was the guy you pretended to be at the bar to meet people. The other dude.
Oh, that would be a great guy to pretend to be. Although I don't know about Wham. I don't know what bars. I'm not sure.
This is very complicated.
I don't know about the other guy.
The reason you know about George Michael is not just his music.
Right. I don't know. Yeah.
He had a spicy social life. Let's just say that.
Correct. You know what's not spicy? Bananas. Because there's almost no flavor to them. Today is not National Banana Day, but it might as well be on Fox and Friends because we're debating the efficacy, the taste, the ranking of bananas.
6 a.m. we woke up. We came out hot with a big banana debate. Rachel and I pro banana. We think it's a top banana in the food chain. Pete's a big banana hater.
Yeah.
So
big
we asked you guys. I ranked it number one, by the
bigot.
way. On the daily staple fruit chart, I put it 1. It's not a treat fruit like, you know, pineapples, raspberries,
avocados, oranges.
You know what? Avocado is the most complete fruit along with banana. Both of them are awesome fruits.
Yeah, but avocados are for a salad. A banana is like, or on a
they
burger.
could go. Have you never had an avocado smoothie?
They're not in the same category.
An avocado banana smoothie is amazing.
Guacamole?
Avocado's on the verge of being kicked out of the fruit category.
But it is.
It's flirting with vegetables way too often.
True.
And the fruits are all talking about it. And they're like, I don't know about y'all, but I say we vote avocado off the island.
Well, it's still on the island right now.
And we asked you what you think. And this is what Jerry said. He said, Will nailed it, of course. Southern style banana pudding, my favorite. Banana splits.
I love a banana. My kids love a banana split.
Don't put bananas in ice cream.
Oh, God, it's so good.
Unnecessary.
Here's an email from Chris. He says, I'm with Pete on the banana debate. I also don't get the peanut butter banana sandwich. I don't get that either.
Correct.
The banana would ruin the peanut butter. I'll take raspberry seeds in my teeth over a banana
Thank you, Chris.
any day.
Thank you.
It's crazy.
And Sandy from Kentucky says, I agree with Will with 3 exclamation points. Bananas all the way, and there isn't nothing like homemade banana pudding with vanilla wafers. Just made a batch a few days ago. I will try. I don't know how long it's been since I've tried that, so I'd like to do that. But I will give you one banana concession.
Okay.
Well-made homemade banana bread. Really good. I had a friend whose mom made it in high school. We used to steal it out of his lunch bag. He was the nicest kid in school.
My friend Candy makes the best banana bread, and I agree with you on the banana bread. I also agree with you on the banana pudding. I love banana cream pie, and I love a banana split, and I love just a plain banana, and it's so good for you. It's a complete fruit. But we're going to try and see if we can get you some banana pudding with, as Will and our viewer who just wrote in says, with Nilla wafers.
Yeah, Nilla wafers. If you had stopped at good, then you'd have a good argument. Good for you doesn't hold any weight for me.
That's very true.
That's the problem.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
All right, we move on. Thanks for indulging us. You can still email us your thoughts. Leaked documents from the Pentagon say Taiwan is highly vulnerable to a potential communist Chinese air attack. The Pentagon assessments say Taiwanese officials doubt their air defenses can detect missile launches, and only about half of Taiwan's aircraft are ready for combat.
Wow, not encouraging. And after the National Guardsman accused of leaking those documents was arrested last week, Senator Marco Rubio says the leaks will lead to a comprehensive evaluation of America's intelligence.
In this case, it was posted online by a 21-year-old guy. It doesn't sound like he's a spy for any country. He was trying to show off to his friends, but you've seen the damage that it's done. So this is going to require, I think, a pretty comprehensive evaluation, not just of how we classify things, but how they're compartmented, how people have access to it, how we secure it.
Meanwhile, China's top diplomat says he hopes and believes Germany will support the country's so-called peaceful reunification with Taiwan. But Germany, a key NATO stalwart, said Friday that any attempt by China to control Taiwan is, quote, unacceptable.
Is that because Germany was once reunited, East and West? I mean, is that their implication?
I don't know why the appeal to Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah, that must be. I bet maybe.
You know, you did it in your history, so we're going to do it in ours. I don't feel like that kind of stuff works.
Yeah, it's interesting. Marco Rubio was on. Or he also said in that interview that he thinks that what happened with that leaker of these documents is that everybody is. If you go on a vacation and you don't post about it, it's like it didn't happen. And he says as more and more young people are having access to our classified information, he thinks that this is a growing problem about social media and sort of how we operate as humans now.
Those leaks revealed, I think, in respect to China, two very concerning things. The spy balloon that captured the nation's attention was just one of several spy balloons that have been sent over the United States over a long period of time. And the second, it showed that China's really been working on successfully hypersonic missiles that could reach the U.S. mainland.
Yeah.
You know, I've been reading lately, and you've referenced it several times on our show, the war games that have played out between the United States and China. The admiral for the Indo-Pacific Fleet, in the not too distant past, said, expect a Chinese invasion of Taiwan within 6 years. And if that takes place, we would run out of long-distance missiles within 1 week. And this does not go well for us in most scenarios.
As you know, when the Pentagon has war-gamed a conflict with China, we have a perfect record of losing every time in those war games, in those simulations.
Yes, that's absolutely true.
With the communist China.
I think I sent you this week a video from like some Navy officer, like he was basically reading LGBTQ poetry.
Oh yeah, you did.
And it was on the internet, and it's just interesting as you talk about the situation we're in, these war games playing out, and what it seems like we're focused on as a military, much more on social social issues, social agendas and ideologies, and not on the mission, which should be to be as lethal as possible so we can defend our country.
Totally right. By the way, I've gotten a lot of messages from fellow vets, some in the special operations community and others with access to intelligence, and they just got a spidey sense that something's off here. That a 21-year-old National Guardsman would have access to all of that information. And, you know, my thing is he's an IT guy, so he probably's got more open doors. But that whole thing of the official line that everyone's saying at the beginning might not be what it is eventually.
Which is what Dan Bongino said yesterday to us.
Correct.
He said, this looks fishy. We've been led on other trails before, and everything that we thought was a conspiracy, a lot of those things have come true. So,
Yeah, I don't have a counter narrative. I'm just saying I don't know if this one's correct or not.
Yeah.
Give us some time. By the way, we talked about the Communist Chinese and their attempt to influence not just foreign countries, but our own elite here, our own government. Here's one blatant example of this is an email that we got a hold of from the Chinese embassy's liaison to Congress. So they're in touch with Congress. And this person, this Chinese official, wrote an email to a staffer for Brian Wenstrup, who's a congressman. Here's pretty audacious for them to email directly a staffer. This communist Chinese official said, I am Counselor Li Jiang with the Chinese embassy in the U.S. I am reaching out to express our grave concern regarding the COVID-19 origins hearing to be chaired by Congressman Wenstrup on next Tuesday. According to the announcement, the hearing is to examine China's complicity in the COVID-19 crisis and hold China accountable. We firmly oppose it. I don't think this is going to work on Chairman Wenstrup.
Well, I mean, you know what? It's interesting because even if this committee proves, and I think it's obvious from all the whistleblowers that were disappeared, I mean, high red flag on that with COVID-19, but will there ever be consequences for China? I don't know if there will be. And so I think, yeah, it's brazen for this guy to write this email, but okay, once we have the hearing, we all know that China was complicit in hiding stuff.
We may be in a war over Taiwan with China or other interests before any of that gets litigated at all. And then they look back and go, hey, served our purposes.
Yeah, it sure did. And Fauci was complicit in that as well.
Yeah. So now to a Fox News alert. New information. We're just getting into our newsroom.
There's been a mass shooting in Dadeville, Alabama.
Brian Yenes is live with what we know. Brian, good morning.
Good morning, guys. We've been making calls on this for hours now. This is what we know. We can confirm that there has been a mass shooting in Dadeville, Alabama. This is eastern Alabama in Tallapoosa County. Reportedly, according to WRBL and the CBS affiliate there, this shooting took place at about 10:30 last night. They're talking about, according to them, WRBL is reporting some 20 people who were injured at this shooting. Now, we understand this shooting took place based on live stream videos that we've seen from local news organizations on the ground, that this shooting took place at the Mahogany Masterpiece, a dance studio right next to the PNC Bank in downtown Dadeville. there's a population of about 3,000. This is a very small community, some 60 miles northeast of Montgomery, some 25 miles northwest of Auburn, Alabama. Again, a mass shooting, we believe. It is being reported by WRBL, the local CBS affiliate, left more than 20 people injured. The injured are believed to be mostly teenagers. They are reporting that this was a Sweet 16 birthday celebration. There is yellow police tape, and investigators are on scene outside of the Mahogany Masterpiece Dance Studio. Video that we've seen from local affiliates shows that the windows have been blown out in the front of that building, it appears, of that dance studio. And that is what we know so far. This is a very, very small community. We have been trying to get information from the coroner, the Dadeville police. We know that the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency, which the Bureau of Investigation for the state of Alabama is housed there, is working on getting all of us more information. They told us that it's, quote, a horrible situation. But that's all we know. So right now we are working the phones and trying to get more information as we get it, guys. But mass shooting, reportedly at least 20 people injured, mostly teenagers at a Sweet 16 birthday last night at 10:30.
Yes.
Wow.
Awful. Thank you,
Brian
Brian.
Yanis, thanks for working on that. Stay posted or stay in touch with us, please. And let's hope that 20 stays in the hurt column and not into a different column.
Absolutely.
Godspeed. As we get more on that, we will bring it to you. But now we'll move to politics, where a big part of politics is how much money can you raise? What do you have in the bank? Because if you're going to run for president, you better have a lot of it. And Donald Trump so far has had some huge fundraising numbers. He raised nearly $18.8 million in the first quarter of 2023. And also, since his indictment and others, that's been accelerated into over $10 million from people wanting to support the former president who was indicted and has declared running for president, who has been and remains the front runner of the Republican field. And there are other names floated out there. There are attack ads already going in that direction from Trump to DeSantis. But right now, in fundraising dollars, Donald Trump's sitting in a pretty good place. It's
an interesting situation because you would think like, oh, a perp walk, a story about you and potentially an affair, a porn star might hurt you, and yet it seemed to have made him stronger. And I think it's because people do feel like there was a lot of unfairness in this prosecution, and they believe that the deep state's after him, maybe the deep state's after all of us. And so a lot of people said, I'm going to show my support for him by donating. And that's why those numbers jumped up. And as a result, some people have been dropping out. We saw
Mike Pompeo.
Glenn Youngkin is putting the brakes on his campaign, wanting to see how this shakes out. Interesting stuff.
Yeah. For sure. One of the other interesting things to note is that in addition to the indictment, people are taking notice of Donald Trump's messaging. He had spent a lot of time talking about 2020 and how he felt how that election was unfair. But his public statements more recently have turned in a future direction. Here's a headline from Politico. He said, Trump turns from past to future at RNC donor retreat. In Politico, here's part of what they said. In his remarks to GOP elite gathered at the Four Seasons Hotel, Trump traded the election grievance rhetoric that has defined his last 2 years in the public eye for a different type of message, his vision for the future, while arguing that he single-handedly saved the Republican Party from the establishment class when he won in 2016. Will, it'll be interesting to see if that donor class does ultimately come in his direction.
Yeah, and whether or not it is a result of the indictment and making Donald Trump, in the eyes of many, a martyr to the system, or whether or not it's a pivot in his message to a more positive, forward-looking message. It's shown up in the polls. This is a CNN poll. This is GOP nominee for president, but this is among Republicans and Republican-leaning independent voters. So, when we see polls often, you need to ask, who are the pollees? Who are they asking the question of? And I assume by categorizing it as Republican-leaning independents, you're casting a broader net, is my suspicion.
I would think so.
Here.
That's usually not how it's categorized.
Right.
And you can look at the source, starts with C, ends with N, and those independent voters, because that number's much different than the latest Fox News poll, which has Donald Trump up amongst Republicans by 30 points.
That one's tighter than most we
Right.
see, and that's that you
That's
wonder.
because it
Yeah.
includes some independents. So they're trying to see the difference if you add independents.
Oh, CNN putting their thumb on the scale.
A little
Let's
bit,
put
yeah.
in some independents and make it
Yeah.
look a little closer.
Right.
Got it.
You know what's interesting is, I think that Donald Trump, obviously, his ability to stay in the game, to always sort of, find a way, even in a negative news situation, to kind of turn it back in his favor. But Vivek Ramaswamy is really an interesting candidate. And he's been saying a lot of the same things Trump's saying, but even more so. Like, for example, I saw a thing where he said, if I'm president, I'm going to pardon, anyone who was nonviolent at January 6th. I've never heard Donald Trump say that. So I just think it's interesting, where people are they on the left or on the right to Donald Trump? It's interesting stuff.
A little bit later, Pete and I will go off the wall. We're going to look at the state of the Republican race. We'll lay out the calendar. It's coming up. It's starting.
It's sneaking up on us. There's
Yeah.
a lot of big stuff coming up in the coming months, certainly throughout 2023, that'll affect this race.
Yeah, at 8:30 Eastern time.
Can't wait for that.
But now we turn to your headlines. A county in Georgia issues an evacuation order after a massive fire broke out at a plastic resin plant. Video from Brunswick showing plumes of smoke covering the sky. Officials say the fire was put out yesterday morning but reignited in the evening. Fire crews contained it for a second time. Effects of exposure to the factory's smoke are unclear, but some residents say they felt lightheaded. And students at the University of Arizona caught on camera throwing eggs at pro-life activists and a display during a demonstration. After multiple activists were hit by the eggs, police showed up and enforced a barricade to protect them. The pro-abortion students also reportedly threw Jell-O at the pro-life group and told local news they found images of aborted babies, quote, disturbing. And those are your headlines.
Yeah. There's a lot going. It's hard to be a pro-lifer these days.
A lot of tolerance on display.
Yeah, absolutely. Good for those students. It's not easy to be a pro-lifer on campus, and they're very courageous. Still ahead, more questions over the safety of COVID vaccines. Our next guest is an orthopedic surgeon who had to stop working after he developed a severe injury, vaccine injury. Our next guest is an orthopedic surgeon who says he had to stop working after developing a severe inflammation of the spinal cord after getting his first COVID vaccine. He has since been traveling the country trying to help others in similar situations. Now he is set to talk to students at Dartmouth College about vaccine mandates. Dr. Joel Wallskog joins us now. Doctor, so great to have you on. Tell us briefly what happened to you and why you believe it is the COVID vaccine that caused this injury to you and your spine.
Well, good morning, Rachel, and thank you for having me. I was a completely healthy 50-year-old person with really no medical problems until about 7 days after my first, or I should say one and only Moderna shot that I received on December 30th of 2020.
Yeah.
So I was
Yeah.
completely otherwise healthy until 7 days after the shot.
Yeah, and that is the story of so many other people who have had vaccine injuries. You're part of that community. What happens to people like you? You take the vaccine, your government, in many cases, forces you to take this vaccine, your hospital perhaps, your job, and so you can make a living. And then you suddenly, have these health problems you never had before. What happens next? Who takes responsibility for this?
Yeah, that's the big problem, Rachel. And really what happens is you're abandoned. You get your shot and you do what you think is the right thing and you kind of do your part. And then all of a sudden you're left with, you're abandoned. And what I say is a lot of these people that are injured are really abandoned from the standpoint of physically, financially, and emotionally.
Yeah, I know that the big pharma had some sort of, deal where they don't have to bear the brunt of it, but they made billions of dollars. They don't have a fund to help people. Like, in your case, you did have financial support, but there's many people who didn't. So what happens to them? There's no fund from either big pharma or our government?
Yeah, that's what I fight for. I'm fine. And fortunately, I'm financially stable, but I fight for all the people that aren't. And that's why I started an advocacy organization to try to help us support them. There's no pharma fund, and there's a fund through the government called the CICP, or the Countermeasures Injury Compensation Program, But to date, the program has only paid out 3 claims totaling less than $5,000.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, their denial rate for these people that are injured is 96.5%.
Yeah. Again, briefly, I don't have a lot of time, but how much has the censorship online of this community and the gaslighting and telling you that your injuries aren't real, how much has that compounded the injury?
Well, it's devastated us. I mean, as you know, through kind of the Twitter files or the data dump from Twitter, they even acknowledged in the files that true stories of vaccine injured people were instructed to censor them. And it's devastating to us because part of it is acknowledgement. I mean, with acknowledgement, we can hopefully then get diagnostics and treatments.
Yeah. And even just emotional support to know you're not crazy. There's all these other people who have been, injured through this vaccine, and just getting help and some sort of camaraderie and support with each other. Your story is remarkable. It's very sad. I'm glad that you have the emotional, financial support to overcome it, and it's really admirable that you're helping others. You have this event at Dartmouth, and all proceeds to this event are going to the vaccine injured. Thank you for joining us today. Really quick, where can people find information online if they want to attend?
So the Dartmouth event is on April 26th. And really, it's a discussion about college mandates, and we hope that all college mandates end, because these young people shouldn't, in my opinion, be getting the COVID shots. I mean, really, it's all risk, no benefit.
Yeah.
So that's on April 26th. They can go to our website at www.react19.org. That's our organization's website, and you can also get information there about the Dartmouth event.
Yeah. I didn't realize that universities were still mandating this for kids who don't need it. Thanks for bringing that to our attention as well. Dr. Joel Wallskog, thank you for joining us this morning, and good luck. We're praying for you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, brave guy. Coming up, as we track the rise of artificial intelligence.
A mass shooting at a gathering in Dadeville, Alabama last night. Local news outlet WRBL reports at least 20 people were hurt. No word yet on fatalities or suspects. This is a developing story, and we will continue to monitor it throughout the morning. Will, over to you.
Thank you, Pete. While many fear the digital consequences of artificial intelligence, there is also growing concern over how much physical energy it consumes, as some functions of AI rely on data centers that use large amounts of water. An academic study found that popular AI platform ChatGPT needs some 500 milliliters of water for roughly 20 to 50 questions and answers, which adds up over time. Here to react, Virginia Tech professor Waleed Saad. Great to have you with me this morning, Professor. Let's start with something that I don't think is fully appreciated by many. I know it wasn't appreciated by me, and that is the physical energy required in general for computing power, the need to cool down servers, the need to cool down computing power. That takes a lot of energy that we don't fully appreciate.
Yeah, good morning. Yes, so AI has been, very popular in what it can enable in terms of social applications. But what's hidden behind is the fact that for any AI algorithm, so think of it as an algorithm you want to run somewhere, there is significant computing resources that you need to use. And those are used in 3 phases. When we experiment with the algorithm, right, to make it work, when we train it, which means when we actually make it work with the data we want, and when we use it, that is called the inference phase. Unfortunately, all 3 phases require significant computing resources. And those computing resources translate into energy pulled from the power grid, as well as into water that's needed in the data center and to the grids themselves.
And so I fully understand this. So you said energy pulled in from the grid, but also a byproduct of computing is heat, right? That it produces heat. And so now you have to cool everything down with air conditioning. And I presume that's also the usage for water as well.
Exactly. So water is needed to cool the data centers because of the heat generated by the massive computing for AI.
Okay. And how to, I think you have helped put together something, how to remedy AI energy usage. We can put that up. Reduce data center usage, recycle the water resources, design green and resource efficient AI, design sustainable AI hardware architectures. These are all great, but it does leave, we have not yet solved the heat byproduct, and as a result, we haven't solved the need for cooling and water when it comes to computers.
Exactly. Yeah, we still require these massive computing resources, and that environmental impact has not been solved. So another aspect we probably should be talking more about as a nation is, can we come up with a national AI policy guidelines focused on sustainability, right? So what is sustainable AI for us, and what is the environmental and social impact of that technology?
Well, I think for me right now, the takeaway is the continued physical and human impact of this artificial intelligence. Professor Waleed Saad, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Still ahead, a 21-year-old National Guardsman charged in leaking classified documents. Did he act alone? We'll unpack that next. And Megxit the narrative. Meghan Markle reported looking to relaunch her career after her father-in-law's coronation. Rachel's pop culture. Ocean Grove celebrating the grand reopening of its new cross-shaped pier, which was rebuilt after the original was destroyed in Superstorm Sandy.
Ocean Grove Camp Meeting Association President Michael Badger joins us now. Michael, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. First of all, before we get to the cross, tell us about Ocean Grove and what makes you guys a little bit different.
So we're unique in that, like 153 years ago, the state legislature of New Jersey allowed us to buy the land and incorporated us as a Christian seaside resort. So in New Jersey law, we are a Christian seaside resort.
And so when that pier was destroyed, when did the idea of replacing with the cross come about?
It was organic. We were moving along with a straight pier again, and then we were just thinking about, hey, how can we make this better? What's the best pier we can possibly make? And I have an engineering background, so we're like, hey, it would be more stable, there'd be more views, more. I'm like, hey, this is a cross. This is so cool.
And withstand the storms. I mean, there's just so much symbolism in this. So, what has been the reaction?
So, probably 80-1 is super positive. We had a ribbon cutting yesterday. We allowed everybody out, and there's just smiles ear to ear. But there is a small minority that happens to be very vocal.
What is their complaint?
That it is a cross. It is not about the structure. It's not about the fact that we own the land or that we paid for it without any government money. It's that they don't want a religious symbol in plain view. They would say that the government should be in control of all external land. So they're like, hey, that's over the water. Does that imply government endorsement of religion? And we're like, not at all. Not at all. We own the land. We got the permits. It's a good design, but we're allowed to have this.
You were telling us before this conversation began that what you wanted people to know about Ocean Grove was that you're welcoming to all religions, but that doesn't have to stay behind closed doors.
Absolutely. So there was a dialogue I had with one of the people who are complaining, and they said, we want you to take your cross off your great auditorium, off your beach badge, and move that all indoors, and we don't ever want to see it. I'm like, we can't do that. That's not who we are. I mean, we need to be able to maintain our identity as Christians, even in the public square.
It's not American. In China, they do the religion underground. We don't have to do that in America.
Exactly. So when you go out on the pier, you don't have to pay anything. You don't have to say a prayer. You don't have to belong to a church. You get to be who you are, whether it's a cross for you or some other symbol. You just enjoy the waves, the oceans, and I'm hoping that you'll come closer to God in the process.
Well, New Jersey has beautiful beaches. I have a feeling you might have a few more people visiting.
I know. I'm going to go
here in the future.
Yeah,
great stuff. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Please
you, Michael.
come.